astronaut Edgar Mitchell was headed home. He had walked on the moon, the high point of his journey on Apollo 14, or so he thought. Then he looked out the window.
Looking at Earth from the moon, from the vicinity of the moon on the way home, this sense of awe, of the wonder of the universe, and sensing an interconnectedness that was beyond my previous experience, perceiving the separate galaxies and galactic clusters and stars and the planets, but knowing that somehow they're interconnected and feeling a sense of wonder and joy and ebullience associated with that insight. I came to realize that our story of ourselves, as told by both science and our religious cosmologies, were incomplete and flawed, and that we needed a new one. A new story to answer the questions in the space age of who are we, how did we get here, and where we're going.
Nothing in Mitchell's training as an engineer had prepared him for the inner impact of his view from deep space. As a scientist, he had learned to focus on the outer world. But he also knew, as a scientist, to pay attention to data. And he knew of no good reason why experience couldn't be studied, evaluated, and understood like other kinds of evidence. Back on Earth, Mitchell sought out allies to pursue this new mission. In 1973, he and his team of explorers founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS. Noetic comes from the Greek word for mind or ways of knowing. But more than a definition, Noetic is a context for asking fundamental questions about reality, including the nature of consciousness.
From the earliest days of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, the primary issue in my mind was to help discover the basic nature of consciousness, working from the scientific point of view, but allowing the mystical or internal experience, and hopefully learning to apply the lessons from that to the issue of creating a sustainable civilization.
At the heart of ION's quest is a growing realization that the future depends, as never before, on our willingness to question assumptions about what's real, and the capacity to see the world anew.
Unless we can shift our worldview, both individually and collectively, I think we'll keep, it's like a rat on a treadmill. We keep spinning around and redoing the same problems. But if we can shift our worldview, then we've got a basis for making real progress.
Research that broadens our prevailing worldview is fundamental to ION's mission.
Often a new idea requires incubation among a group of people who are willing to wonder, who are willing to risk, until it gets strong enough and has deep enough roots to be exposed to the culture. That's what Noetics has done in many different fields, among them medicine, and I am deeply grateful.
Through specific program areas, our research is organized around the interface of consciousness, science, and society. Our goal is to ask the deepest possible questions. Who are we? And what are we capable of becoming? In the area of healing, we're exploring aspects that have been largely neglected within the conventional medical model. One of the most promising developments is the hypothesis that our bodies possess a healing system.
One of the things I learned about the healing response throughout all this is that it comes from inside of myself. I know that a doctor can't heal me. He can only facilitate that healing response.
Psychoneuroimmunology, a big word for the small but growing field that's tracking key mind-body connections. IONS has stimulated developments in this field. This effort to understand how the brain and behavior influence the immune system has gained wide acceptance in leading medical centers. And we're proud to have assembled the world's most comprehensive collection of case reports involving spontaneous remission of disease. We also produced a nationally broadcast documentary, The Heart of Healing. Today our work focuses on the healing experience as transformative.
Understanding how people turn pain into wisdom is not something that we can quantify. We can only learn this by listening deeply to the stories of individual people and finding the right questions to ask them, which will enable them to identify what they let go of and what they took hold of in order to move in the direction of integrity. This is the sort of research which is not easily funded. It is not hard research, but then again, things that are expressed in numbers are often not as important as things that can be expressed in words. And sometimes the most important things in life can never be expressed at all, but only experienced.
That illness is one path to coming to terms with those questions, to asking them and searching for the answers. I'm sure there are others, but this is the path that brought me to those questions, and that the answers were the source of greater peace of mind and joy than anything else that I had ever done in my life. That showed me that the most important part of recovery and of healing from illness is to find that sense of who we are and why we are here.
Throughout its history, IONS has sought exchange with individuals from cultures whose maps of reality are different from our own. Beginning in the mid-'80s, in collaboration with Esalen Institute and others, we sponsored an ongoing series of conversations among advanced meditation practitioners and consciousness researchers. Our goal was to foster mutual discovery between Eastern wisdom and Western science. One result was a publication of what's been called the Definitive Guide to Meditation Research. Today, our aim is to conduct studies that explore the potential applications of meditation and other forms of contemplative practice to health and healing. In addition to East meeting West, our program bridges North and South. A recent project takes us into the depths of the Amazon,
where we're working with indigenous peoples who wake up every morning and share their dreams. And the idea is that no one dreams for the individual, they dream for the collective. And this is a very important concept, not only for understanding how people move from inner subjectivity to collective action, but for helping us in the Western world to appreciate the importance of collective dreaming.
Our program on emerging worldviews explores new and timely questions, such as the effects of technology on what it means to be human.
The Institute of Noetic Sciences is the only institution I know of that asks the deeper questions about the role of human consciousness in creating the world. How do we connect the perennial wisdom that's thousands of years old with the kind of wisdom that we're going to need to steer our way into the future with the powers that technology has granted us? Now we need to think about how to use our powers wisely.
Another focus of our research is the unknown reaches of the mind. Here, IONS is pioneering work in the area of distant intentionality and spiritual healing.
Throughout history and in every culture, we have healers who report the ability to create changes in the physical well-being of a patient, even at a distance. This is something that anthropologists have chronicled as interesting anecdotes. But by and large, very few people have bothered to look at the possibility that healers may actually be causing physical changes in the well-being of a distant patient. So what we did is we set up an experiment where we put a video camera on one person, and then we had the remote starer in another room watching their image via closed-circuit television. In this way, we could eliminate any possible artifacts due to heightened peripheral vision or an ability to detect someone staring at them using conventional sensory means. What we found is that there were significant differences in the autonomic nervous system activity during the staring periods as compared to the control periods. And this is via closed-circuit television under conditions that completely ruled out any kind of conventional sensory exchange of information.
The data support the thesis that non-ordinary communication occurred between the participants. But the question remains, what's the significance of mind at large in the world beyond the laboratory? To explore this issue, IONS is working with a team of researchers from leading medical centers in America, examining distant prayer and healing in clinical settings.
The problem is there have been very, very few well-controlled clinical trials, and that's really where we have to investigate these phenomena. It's really the place where it's going to make a difference. With support from the Institute of Noetic Sciences, over the last 3 years, we've been able to complete 2 studies of distant intentionality, that is, psychic healing or prayer for people with advanced AIDS. Both studies showed very encouraging results, suggesting that there is an effect of this intervention. We used healers from all different backgrounds. What that says to me is that the common denominator may not have anything to do with belief, but may have to do with pure intentionality, the pure compassionate intent of one human being to help another one. And that's part of any healthcare intervention, or at least it ought to be.
The possibility of subtle energy fields that may influence healing is a complex and challenging area for IONS research. For instance, Qigong is a widespread healing practice throughout China. The practice invokes Qi, a concept new to Western science and also new to our program of study. 3 pilot studies have demonstrated a distant Qi effect. Additional studies are being planned.
While Qigong is a very old culture, internationally right now it's a new phenomenon. So if we could use Qigong to kill enough cancer cells, it'll be a medical discovery.
One reason to study Qigong is because it's a great model to study subtle energies or psychokinesis, because these masters have spent a lifetime developing the ability to supposedly influence others at a distance. So if we're going to start out with experiments, they're great subjects to work with. The experiment is designed to ask the question whether we can see an effect of Qigong on human cells without the mind of the patient present. So we have cancer cells in a plastic dish, and we bring the Qigong master into the laboratory and ask him to give a Qigong treatment to those cells from a distance. I would hope that the results of the experiment will help to define which path to follow as far as scientific investigation of this in the future. Because if the mind of the patient is essential for the efficacy of Qigong, that's very interesting, and we would need to explore that further. But if the results indicate that there's something more than that, that there's some effect of distant intentionality, then that would provide rationale for a whole different line of investigation. I believe the Institute of Noetic Sciences is crucial for these types of experiments because it has the courage to fund research that asks questions outside the current scientific paradigm.
IONS is committed to disseminating its findings to the widest possible audience through our publications, including the Noetic Sciences Review and our new magazine, Connections, as partners with a membership that has grown from a handful in 1973 to over 50,000 today, through work with the media as our research moves into the mainstream, in our travel program with its expeditions to the farthest corners of the world, and our conferences, meetings, and lectures to professional and popular audiences alike.
What really interests me is the opportunity to take the ideas and the research findings into the world and to make practical use of them at the individual and collective level. I think the fact that we are both a research organization, a communication organization, and a membership organization places us beautifully in a position to link research to action in the world.
The times ahead promise to be exciting, filled with new and unprecedented challenges. Edgar Mitchell's question is as powerful now as when he first asked it. How can we find the coherence and vision that will take the human story to its next chapter?
For an explorer, stepping where humans have never been before is an enormous aha. It's the height of an explorer's experience. It's an exhilaration. Exploration and discovery is always with the idea that we don't go exploring without hoping to gain some knowledge, some useful knowledge out of it. But exploration, knowledge, research requires an enormous amount of human effort, and human effort is converted into budgets to sustain this type of activity.
We need to ask the hard questions. We need to be willing to risk being wrong in order to learn something new and fundamental about our human nature.
Alone, explorers dream, but with the inspired financial support of others, dreams can guide us to new and promising terrains. Join us on this exciting journey of exploration and discovery at the frontiers of consciousness.